Hello, my name is Mark Garretts, and today in this video we're going to be discussing how you can take a 2D image like a portrait or a pet or a scene or anything and convert it into a 3D file that can be read by RK-CAD so you can burn it in a crystal. So in addition to having a laser that uses RK-CAD that is set up for 3D crystal intermarking, you're going to need three things. You're going to need the Cockpit 3D desktop software. You're going to need their online FastPass conversion service, which converts photos into a 3D format. And you're also going to need my software, which is web-based, which converts their output into something that RK-CAD can use. So let's take a look at the first component, which is cockpit3d.com. And you'll want to go to that website, which again is cockpit3d.com. And this is what it looks like today. Now it's a website, so it could change. But basically what you want to do is come right here to where it says free trial and click it and log in to get a free trial. Now right now they haven't put it up yet, but in the next few days they will have another field here that is a coupon code, and what you want to do is put in the words LightMade, all one word, and that will get you an incentive to purchase the software. And I'm not quite sure what that is yet, but they'll be able to tell you when you do that. Now I'm just going to tell you that when you do that, fill out this form, they are going to look at it. You're going to get an email and an invitation to have a meeting with their salesperson, who is going to explain the system to you and explain the software, talk about your needs and all that, and then get you set up for a trial of the software, which is 7 days, and then you'll want to purchase the software. And so I'm going to close this window here, but I also want to call your attention to all the different things that it can do. Here's a features link right here, and this has all kinds of videos of what it does. And then the main thing you want to look at here is tutorials, and this has a whole set of tutorials on how to use their software. And so you want to look at that, and a lot of this is older now, so they've made some changes, but you'll get the basic idea. So once again, you'll want to get that software going. All right. I also want to mention that there is another way to get to that form, and that is to just click this Go button here, and that brings up the same form. And also, if you are anxious and want to do this before they actually have this coupon code in here, just tell them verbally the coupon code LightMade when you talk to them. So once you get signed up with them, they are going to send you a bunch of links and a bunch of 3 different accounts. One will be to the Cockpit 3D basic site. The other will be to this site here that we're looking at, and this is their FastPass 3D site where you can get your photos converted via AI into 3D. And the last will be a site where you can order crystals, add credits for this site, etc. But we're going to be concentrating on this site right here, which is the FastPass 3D site. Now, this is where you're going to upload your photos. So let's backtrack for 1 second and go to a photo. And we're going to do this process live so you can see it. Okay, so you're going to need some kind of photo editing software. And I like to use Photoshop. And I recommend Photoshop because it is tied in, you'll see later, to Cockpit 3D, but we're going to use Photoshop. But if you want to use some other photo editing program, that's okay. So the main thing we want to do here is we want to get rid of the background. Now you don't have to, you can use this background as part of the 3D picture, but most people just want to see their portraits here. And you can also crop and size the photo. So I've gone ahead and opened the photo, and we are going to remove the background. Now, these days Photoshop has an AI tool to remove the background, which if you select the picture will come up sort of automatically. So I'm just going to go ahead and click it and let it remove the background. Okay, and we'll let it work here for a second. And it's gone ahead and removed the background. And it's done a pretty good job. You can see right in here that it has left a little bit of the background in, so we'll take that out. Now you'll notice that the background here in Photoshop is transparent, which is represented by this grid of checks, and we want to turn this to black. So what we're going to do is come over here to our layers, and we're going to add a new layer, and we'll just leave it at its defaults. We're going to move it to the back here. Okay, so it's in the background, so I've dragged it down, and I'm going to select it. Then I'm going to come over here to edit, and I'm going to select fill, and I'm going to fill it with black. Okay, and everything normal, blending mode, 100% opacity, and click OK. All right, and so that does two things. One, it shows us if it left anything up here, we would see it right away. And you can see down here, this is what I'm talking about in terms of needing to get rid of that. There's a little tiny bit of the background in here. If you want, you can get rid of that. But the reality is that no one is going to see that in the 3D, because this is going to be warped all the way to the back, and it's just going to dissolve into the point cloud, and you won't have to worry about it. Trust me on that. So I'm going to zoom in to this part of the photo to make it big, okay? Because this is the part we want to remove. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to go to our eraser tool, okay? And I've got it set to a fairly small size. I've got it set to a size of 13. And I want to make sure my background is set to black. So this is the background color, because this is what's going to erase it to. And I probably don't need to show you how to do that in Photoshop, but basically you click on it and you can set the color here. So mine is already set to black, so you want to do that. Now you want to make sure you have the image layer selected and not the background, so I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to come here and I'm going to start to erase. And you can see that if I drag the cursor over this, I start to erase it. Okay, and what I like to do is I like to erase along the edge first, so that if I have any issues, I can correct those. So I'm just going to erase along the edge. I'm just slowly kind of moving here, and if I'm not 100% perfect, again, it's not going to matter that much, because these are the edges that are going to be warped to the back. I'm going to just take that out there like that. Boom. Okay, I'll clean this up just a tiny bit. Again, this is not all that important. Okay, and I'm going to leave that there as a little highlight, and I'm just going to erase the rest of this here. And by this point, if you want to go faster, you can change your brush size, because you don't have to be as precise with it. Okay, and you can see by having it black, when I miss little bits of it, it's pretty easy to pick up and see. So I'm going to get rid of those. Okay. Okay, so let's zoom back out. I'm going to do a Control-0 on my keyboard, which brings it all the way out. And I can see in here that there's little tiny dust specks. Okay, so that is because whoever sent me this image did a scan of it and got some dust in there. Either that or this actual dust on his hoodie. So let's get rid of that. I'm going to do that in Photoshop with the spot healing brush here, which is this brush. And I'm going to come in here and just cursor over those white dots. Okay, and that looks pretty good. Okay, and there's a little tiny bit of stuff sticking up here. Again, I'm not going to worry about that because it's going to get warped into the background. And so I'm going to do a file, and I'm going to export this as a JPEG. Okay, and I'm going to have a very high quality, so I'm going to move it up here. But I want to make sure that my file size is going to be under 10 megabytes, so I don't want to make it too crazy. So over on the right hand side you can see it says it's 1.4 megabytes. So I'm going to export it, and I've got a 3D Crystal picture directory here, and I'm just going to leave that name there, image 8143, and I'm going to save it. Okay, and now I'm going to minimize Photoshop, and I'm going to go to my pictures and 3D Crystal, and I'm going to look at that image, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to select properties, and we're going to see how big it is, and it's only 1.4 megabytes, so that's fine. Okay, so I'm going to click cancel, and if I want to, I can crop this. So let me reopen it in Photoshop, because I got all this black up here that I really don't need. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my cursor and going to select a box, and I'm going to keep the bottom pretty much the way it is, but I want to crop the top out here. So I'm going to come down pretty close to him, and I'm going to click, and I'm going to come here to edit, and then no, it's image and crop. Okay, and now I'm going to save it again, and now I'll just save. Okay, and again it's 2 megabytes, so that's fine. Say OK, and I'm going to close Photoshop. So now we're back in FastPass 3D, and what we're going to do is come here and click Add New Order. So you want to make sure that you have no shape selected. You don't want to use one of the pre-built shapes, and you'll see why, because we're going to assign our shape in Cockpit 3D. So here we've just got that one size, so that's okay, and we're going to upload our photo. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to select our image and open it. Okay, and it's going to come up, and here we've got the option to keep the background. Now we've already eliminated the background, so it doesn't matter. We can check it or uncheck it. If you leave it unchecked, it's not going to make a difference because we've already taken it off, but you can go ahead and check it if you want. You can also enhance it if your photo is not so great. Our photo is really good, so we don't need to worry about that. And here you want to enter the details, and this is just for reference. You really don't need to put anything in here at all. It's just when you want to come back to it, you can get this. So you could put the customer's name in here and the customer's email, an order number if you want. I'm just going to leave it blank. You don't really need to fill it out, and I'm going to click Submit. Okay, and it wants me to check the preview before proceeding, so I'm going to click Preview, and it's going to show me what it looks like. Okay, and if I want, I could add some text here. I wouldn't worry about that because we're going to do that when we get to Cockpit 3D. So this is okay. You can rotate it if you want, but so let's see what that looks like. It just moves it, doesn't really rotate it. I think it's fine the way it was, so we'll just kind of put it back. Okay, so I wouldn't worry about adding text. I would go ahead and leave that for Cockpit 3D, and we'll see that. And we're going to go ahead and click Submit. And it's going to load in that photo. Now it's going to come back to this screen. Now here's a very important thing you need to do. You need to check this Sync to Auto Convert 3D. If you don't do that, it is not going to actually start processing. So we're going to click it, and it's going to start the process of converting this into 3D. All right, and it is not done yet. You can see here our production status is converting. This usually just takes a couple minutes. While we're waiting for it, right here it shows you your FastPass 3D balance and credits. So you have to either load credits or start with some credits before doing this. And this refresh button here, this allows us to see our change in the production status. So I'll click it, and it's still converting. So we're going to stop recording, and we'll come back when it's done. So we're back, and I'm going to click refresh one more time and it should be done. Let me click it. And you can see here now it has changed to conversion ready for download. So we are ready to download it. Now before we do that, because it's going to charge us, it's only charged us 2 credits here for doing the conversion. Until we download it, it's not going to give us the full charge. So I'm going to click preview, and it's going to come up and give us a 3D preview of what this looks like. So I can touch and drag to rotate it so we can see what our 3D image looks like. Okay, and these are 3D images, quote unquote. They are really hollow on the back. You can see, if I turn it to the side, you can see it's really only a half of an image, so we'll call this a 180, and it's really hollow in the back. And now this rotation doesn't affect what we get, it's just looking at it. And this looks fine to me. I'm not going to worry about this artifact here. This is just from the display. I'm just going to click approve, and once I do that, it will be ready for download. Okay, and so here I can download it. So I'm just going to click the download link, and it is going to automatically download it, and it's going to be a zip file of a scene file that Cockpit 3D can load. Now, one thing I didn't mention is what if you don't like the picture? Well, here, if you even if you have already downloaded it, you can click this button and it will send the project to an actual real 3D artist. And so what will happen is that they will give it to their teams, and they will use real person talent to convert the image to 3D and do a hopefully better job than FastPass has done. I have not found the need to do that yet. I have been perfectly satisfied with what FastPass does, and what Cockpit says is that 95% of what you do can be done by the FastPass 3D. So far I have found that to be true. And you can see here my production status is now downloaded, and you can see here that they charged us 50 credits for that because there were 2 subjects, and so that's basically the way it works. So this was one subject, it happened to be a cupcake, so it doesn't have to be a portrait, it could be an inanimate object. This is a pair of cats, and so again it charged us 50 credits, and there were 2 people in our image that we did online, so it was 50 credits for that. So it was downloaded into my downloads folder as a zip file. I extracted it and put it in my working folder, and I renamed it to 2 people. Now what you're going to get is what's called a cockpit file. It's going to have a number and then say cockpit.cockpit, that's the extension. I changed it to 2people.cockpit so I know which one it is, and we'll go ahead and double click that, and it will open up the Cockpit 3D software here in a second. There it goes. Okay, and I'm going to make it full screen, and it went ahead and loaded that file for us. And here we can see what it looks like. This is the front view, top view, ortho view, and side view. And what we want to do is we want to select our crystal size that we want to put this in. And that looks like it goes in a square crystal pretty well. So I'm going to come here to my template, and I'm going to pick a custom one that I have defined, and I'm going to come all the way down here, and I'm going to use this 50 by 50 rectangle, and I've got a margin of 5 millimeters on either side here, and I'm going to say OK. And so that's actually the real crystal size I have. I'm going to change my margin a little bit. I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to change my margin to, let's make it 3, 3, and 3, and say OK. And now you can see it doesn't fit. Now I can just click it and resize it, but I can also use, if I select the picture, I can use this icon right here to fit the objects to the template. So I'm going to click that, and now it put it in the template. And I can zoom in here to see it a little bit better. And I can zoom into the ortho view, and that looks good. If I wanted to add some text to this, I could do that by using this text object here. I'm not going to go through all of the things you can do in Cockpit 3D because they have their own videos on how to do that, and I will refer you to those. So once we have this the way we want, what we want to do is come here to our scene settings. And we want to set this up so it's optimal for our lasers. As it comes from Cockpit 3D, the lasers that they sell are green lasers, and so they make a slightly bigger dot. So we are going to change our XY distance to 0.06, our Z layer distance to 0.06. We're going to leave everything else the same, but you want to uncheck here, create stabilizing points, because this is going to make some points outside the image that make it so that it appears to be bigger than it is, so we're not going to leave that. We want to uncheck that, and we're going to say OK. That's all we really need to do. What I want to do now is do a test generation of the point cloud. So I'm going to go, and it's going to create the point cloud down here for us. But what I really want to do is enhance this image a little bit so that it does a better job. You can see that the way his face came out, he's a little bit darker than this face. So I want to kind of equalize him a little bit. I want to kind of lighten up this area here. So what I want to do is click this icon right here, which is edit the texture in a graphic editor. And that's going to bring up Photoshop on my system. I don't know if it'll bring up something else. They say Photoshop, and it works for me because I have Photoshop. If you don't, it might bring up a different graphic editor. So this is going to bring up what's called a texture file. This is not the actual 3D image. This is what sets the texture of what the 3D image looks like. So what we want to do is first thing change this to black and white. So I'm going to come here to Image, Mode, and select Grayscale. Okay, and it's going to discard the color. I'm okay with that. Okay, now we can get a better idea of that his face is a little bit darker, and this is probably way too dark. So the first thing we'll do is come here to Layer, or excuse me, Image, and Adjustments, and we're going to go to Curves, and I'm just going to simply drag this curve down here to lighten everything up a little bit, and just going to play with it here till we get it light. Okay, and that looks pretty good. I could come in here with a lighten brush and change this. I'm not going to bother with that. I think this looks okay the way it is, so I'm going to say OK. I'm going to come here and click File, Save, and leave it as maximum, and that will be great, and that will put it back into Cockpit 3D. So I'm going to go ahead and close Photoshop, and you see it doesn't change here until I click this button here, which is the Reload Textures. Now it reloads it, and I'm going to regenerate the point cloud. Don't forget to do that. It's going to regenerate the point cloud, and you can see he's gotten lightened up a little bit better. I'm going to come here and click and drag right there to rotate it, and that looks pretty good. Okay, I can zoom in if I want by using the scroll wheel on my mouse. That looks really good. I'm going to go ahead and leave that the way it is. So now this is set for size to our crystal, and it's set in the right position, so I don't have to worry about any of that right now. I'm ready to generate a point cloud file that the laser can read. So I'm going to come here and click Save Point Cloud File. All right, and I'm going to name this again 2 people. Okay, and it's going to save it as a DXF file. Okay, now that DXF file cannot be read by our laser software. It's for other lasers. So that's where my conversion website comes in. So we're going to go there now. So once you've generated your DXF file, you need to convert it to an OBJ file that our software can read, RK-CAD can read. So you're going to want to come to this website, lightmadedesigns.com/DXF. If you just go to lightmadedesigns.com, you're going to find my retail site. You won't find this converter, so make sure you put in the /DXF, and it's not in any of the menus on my public site. So this program is going to take the DXF point cloud that we just generated with Cockpit 3D, and it's going to convert it into an OBJ point cloud that RK-CAD can read. Now, it's not a normal OBJ file, so you don't want to use this to try and convert DXFs to OBJ generally, because it's not going to have solid surfaces like a normal 3D file. Once again, this is an OBJ point cloud, and it's intended just for RK-CAD. And we'll show you how to use it in RK-CAD in the next part of the video. But the conversion costs $1.99, so you're going to pay with PayPal, or you can just use a debit or credit card. So I'm going to go ahead and enter all that information, and I'm going to come back once it's all entered so you won't see my information. Okay, so once you've entered all your information, you're going to see this Pay $1.99 button that comes up. Go ahead and click it, and once you do that, it's going to thank you, and it's going to allow you to choose a file and then convert it to OBJ. So you're going to click Choose File, and we're going to choose these two people DXF because that's the one we've been working with, and we're going to click Open, and then when we're ready, we're going to click Convert to OBJ. Now, you've already paid for this conversion, so I want you to be warned that if you go away from your browser at any time during this process until the download is complete, you are going to lose the file and you'll have to start over, including repaying. Okay, so I'm going to click Convert to OBJ, and it's going to do an upload. So it's going to upload the file. Then once it's done uploading, it is going to start the conversion process. And again, this could take some time, so you just want to be patient. Don't browse away. And once it comes up and says conversion complete, thanks you, it's going to give you the converted file over here in your downloads folder. And depending on your browser and your system settings, it could go somewhere else. So you're just going to have to figure out where that is. But normally it goes to your downloads folder. Now that you've got that downloaded, we are going to bring it into RK-CAD, and we will show you how to process it there. So we're here in the inner carving project section of RK-CAD, and I've set my glass size to 50 by 50 by 50 because that's what we set it to in Cockpit 3D. And what we want to do is we want to open the file. So before I started recording, I downloaded the file, or the file was in my downloads folder. I moved it to my working folder and renamed it to twopeople.obj. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open that now. And here it is, twopeople.obj. And I'm going to go ahead and open that. It's going to give you a file opening. Now it takes a while to load this because it's a pretty big file. There's a lot of points. Okay, so there it is. Now it looks blank. It really isn't blank. It's just hard to see because the points are so small and there aren't solid planes like there would be in a normal OBJ file. So I'm going to generate the point cloud. So I'm just going to click the Gen button down here, and it's going to generate the point cloud, and now you can see the file. So what we want to do before we actually burn this is we want to reset our point cloud settings here to match what we did in Cockpit 3D. So what I want to do is I want to change this to 0.06, and I want to have my Z space at 0.06. I want to have my L delta at 0.06, and what I want to do is change my levels to 2. Okay, and that I have found gives us the best compromise between size of file and contrast, etc. So I'm going to now regenerate the point cloud. Okay, and I'm going to zoom out. It's a little hard to see like this, but we can rotate it. Now you can see that the details come in a little bit better. Okay, this is not really a great representation of what it's going to look like. You'll have to see that once we go ahead and burn it. So we're going to go ahead and do that now, and we will come back and show you the burning and what it looks like. And one other thing before you burn is make sure your mark speed is set correctly, your power, frequency, etc. is set correctly. I've found that 1500 works well for my laser and my lens. Don't mess with any of the rest of this stuff. My power happens to be good at 80%, 30% frequency, and I don't think these other two things matter, but they're 1 and 1. And that's where you want to be before you mark. And here's the crystal actually burning, and this one was shot through the protective UV screen. Here's another shot from the side, and this one is obviously not through the UV protective screen. And here we are a little further along, shot from a slightly higher angle. You can start to see the details of the man's face in the back starting to come together. And here's a shot from the top down. The man's face is almost done, and it's just now starting to fill in the details on the lady's face. And here we're even further along, and you can see it's starting to actually fill in the details of the lady's face. And here is the final crystal. And that was the front, this is the side, and as we come around to the back, an interesting effect happens. You can see that the people are starting to turn and follow you, and that's because it's a negative engraving. And here we come back around to the front again, but that's an interesting effect.